Let's take a moment to remain seated and greet each other in worthy recognition and dignity. I know, I am like that. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Transylvania County. It's such a pleasure to have all of you here in our special atmosphere of love, compassion, and inclusion. We welcome each of you as your unique selves offer so much to form this congregation. If you're visiting here today, we welcome you and invite you to meet us after the service during our coffee hour. We have some announcements today. The Pisgah Legal Watch Party at UUTC on October 23rd at 5:30 p.m. featuring Imani Perry. There's going to be light food and drink provided. The doors open at 6:30 p.m. and the live stream will start at 7. We have our Halloween Fest on October 25th, all day. Volunteers will be needed for our booth. And a fun thing, Super Sunday is back on the 26th, where we have soup after the service. It's going to be on the fourth Sunday of the month. Sign up at the front counter if you would like to bring a soup or whatever. Anything you want to bring. We're happy to welcome Reverend Phillip Thomason back to speak with us today. He is a graduate of Emory University with a BS, Master's, and PhD. He was a chaplain at Emory University Hospital in oncology, HIV/AIDS, and children's hospice. He was the minister, outreach, and pastoral care at St. Mark United Methodist Church. He's been married to Rick for 30 years. Where are you, Rick? Oh, right there. And they have a wonderful schnauzer named Eleanor, named after their heroine, Eleanor Roosevelt. Let us center and prepare for worship with Michael's prelude. Thank you, Michael. Our chalice lighting today is Bringing Us Home to Love by Francis Cozier. We light this chalice today as a people dedicated to personal growth. May it burn away the oppressions we have been taught and glow instead with the humility of learning. May it reignite our dreams for a better world and kindle our joy for simple living. May its warmth extend out into the forgotten alleyways of exclusion and bring us home to love, to welcoming, and to all the challenges, the questions, and the blessings of this beautiful path to become a beloved community. Allergies, not sick. You want to light the joys and this is our time to lift up our people who express joys and sorrows. From Nancy Richardson, in celebration of the inspiring No King's Day events here and all over the country, so much love and goodwill. Also from Nancy, please remember Eric and Wendy and their family as they mourn the loss of Eric's grandmother. And I have one from Jane Ramsey, who was not able to be here today. Many thanks to the teachers and members who conducted the church retreat at the mountain. It was informative, fun, and I learned a great deal and met wonderful people. The weather wasn't bad either. And we will light one more candle for those joys and concerns that are left unspoken. Spirit of love and life, we give thanks this day for those who have come forward to express these joys and concerns, and we will lift up these messages to the universe and affirm that they will be attended to. Amen. I apologize. Could you read the opening words for me?
I can. Where are they? You have the word. I'm lost. Where? For our community gathered here, for the Spirit that called us together and drew us into this place, we give thanks this day. For moments we have shared with others, for times when we have reached out across barriers of distance and fear, for times when others have reached out to us, for moments when we have discovered another along our path. We give thanks this day for this community of celebration and growth, introspection and solitude, and for those moments of that peace which passes all understanding. We give you thanks this day for our gathering together out of distant places, for our weaving together out of many separate selves, this hour of celebration and worship. I invite you to stand and to join with us on our first hymn this morning. Come sing a song with me, There and There. Won't you sing with us, please? Is it okay? You need me to give you some water? No, they got my sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. That I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home
Hey, good morning. My name is Kevin Lausch. Good morning. My name is Kevin Lausch, and this is the Wisdom for All Ages story. And this story is called The Jobless Umbrella. It's taken from the Soul Matters curriculum and based on a story from 365 Smiles. So, and it's about a small moment of kindness. Well, one day, Jennifer was in her car. She was driving to work. A day a little bit like today, a little bit cooler. It was rainy. A lot more rain, though, was coming down in sheets. And she was driving along, though, feeling pretty good because she had her cup of warm tea. She was in a warm car, had her seat heater on, music going. She was going to her job. And she drove past somebody who was walking along as the rain was coming down on them. They didn't have an umbrella, they didn't even have a rain jacket. She thought, what were they thinking? They could have been dressed ready for this if they knew the forecast, but they weren't. And she drove along just a little bit and looked back, and in her back seat was just a small umbrella. And she looked at it and she thought, well, I guess I could give them my umbrella, but then I would be without an umbrella, even though when I drive to work, then I go into a car facility and I'm out of the rain right into my building. And I have to turn around and I have to go back and give it. What should I do? So, what do you think? What should she do? Go back. So she did go back. She had to take a left and a left again and then a right, go back down the street, and you turn back around. But she finally got to the guy walking along the rain, his shoulders hunched over, and she felt she was risking a little bit because she was contacting a stranger here and she was intruding sort of on his day and on her day. She finally put her window down and offered just a little umbrella. And it flipped up, and he took it, put it over his head, and he smiled and said, "Thank you." And she went on with her day. It was just a little moment, a little act of kindness, but it made all the difference to one person. And she realized as she went through her day that she had done a small thing for giving an umbrella to somebody, but the act had given her back so much more because little acts, little moments of kindness can change our world. And Jake, will you now bring up the children's chalice and we'll light it and sing ourselves?
Peace be with you and our blessing. Peace be with you and our blessing. Peace be with you and our blessing as you lead us now. It is time now to take the opportunity to give to support our congregation and our community. We'll ask the ushers to come forward. Okay. For what is given in love, we thank you.
When I was a chaplain at the hospital in Atlanta, at the Children's Hospital, I always used to have a prayer with the children as I would start to leave. And one little boy one day said, "Why do you close your eyes?" And I said, well, just what we're supposed to do, I guess, close our eyes. He said, "I want you to keep your eyes open, and I want you to look at me when you say this." And that's what I want you to hear today. Just keep your eyes open and listen to me. Kevin shared with you today about an umbrella and a person that was waiting in the rain. 30 years ago, I met a person waiting in the rain, probably longer than that. A transgendered woman by the name of Miss Julia, standing in front of a little shopping center in Atlanta, Georgia, in the pouring rain, drenched. No money, nowhere to live. Hair that would meet Jesus. It was this high. I rode past her. I stopped and I thought, now, are you who you say you are? Open your eyes. I drove back around the block, and there was Miss Julia, hiding behind the bus, little glass bus area. Pulled up and I tooted my horn. She looked at me from around the edge like that, eyes wide open. And I said, "Would you like a ride?" And she said to me, "I'm not that kind of girl." And I said, "No, no, 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 no." I said, "I'm one of the ministers at St. Mark United Methodist Church, and I want to get you out of the wet." She got in the car, didn't say a word to me. I took her to an old abandoned house. She got out, and do you know where she was the next Sunday? At St. Mark United Methodist Church, sitting in the balcony by herself, up in the left-hand corner, and I will never forget it as long as I live. So sometimes we need to keep our eyes open, just like the little boy said to me, "Why do you close your eyes?" Let's keep our eyes open for what we might see in this world that we can make a difference at. Amen.
Well, last week we sang a brand new number, composed, written, published in 2016. Today we're going to the other end of the spectrum. We're going to sing, we do it once every 2 or 3 years, whether you like it or not. We're going to sing one in Latin. It's written by a guy named Pitoni, who lived in the 1700s. And this is a song, an anthem that's based on Psalm 96. Sing a new song to the Lord. Sing a song to the Lord. Cantate Domino canticum novum. And the choir is going to pull it off to the best of our assembled ability. We're going to do it a cappella. Not that Michael couldn't play it beautifully at all, but this one is written to be sung a cappella, and we're going to try to do just that. Cantate Domino.
Yes. I think thank you. I thought that was my phone ringing, and it absolutely panicked me. Because, I usually don't speak from up here, but this past year I celebrated my 75th birthday. And things are just changing. Can't remember like I used to. So let's try it from here today. Not only was it my 75th birthday, but it was our 30th anniversary, mine and Rick's. For 30 years we've been together. Are you as afraid as I am? I've quit watching the news. I watch Let's Make a Deal, but I've quit watching the news. I don't watch MSNBC. I don't want to hear all the stories that are going on in the world because they make me fearful. And I'm afraid about what's happening, not only to this country, but to people. Indiscriminately happening to people in the world that there needs to be nothing being done about. I'm afraid. I don't want to hear it. I choose to be upstairs reading. I choose to be outside blowing leaves. I choose to do anything other than to hear the stories that are going on in our country today. And I've tried to figure out why, because there are people that are just addicted to it. They want to know they want to hear it, they want to hear it, they want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And I've come to the conclusion this, and I was telling Janice this morning. In the 7th grade at Georgia W. Vance Junior High School in Bristol, Tennessee, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, our 7th grade history teacher by the name of Miss Dorothy Van Cleve stood up in front of the class and for some reason had this need to tell a group of puberty-ridden 7th graders that if a bomb were to be dropped, this is exactly the words. If a bomb were to be dropped, we're going to herd you onto buses and we're going to take you to an undisclosed location. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I raised my hand and I said, but what about our parents? She said, they're on their own. Now, we can look at it today and laugh. I was afraid. I was scared. I waited until we got ready to change classes, and I left. And I walked home. My daddy said, you're going back? And I said, you're much bigger than I am, and you control me, but if you take me back, I'll be back within an hour. That went on for 3 weeks. My mama would say to him, leave him alone. He's afraid of what's happening in the world. That's the way that I feel right now. I'm afraid of what's happening in this country, but we could take it a step further in this world that we're living in. But here's what I want to say to you right now. We're all in this together. You and I can make differences of what's happening right now. If you were downtown yesterday, you saw it. I spent my time just walking up and down the street, reading the signs that people had. And it made my heart turn a little bit from being afraid into being almost joyful. Because there are people just like me that are afraid. But you know, when we gather together, the strength that comes from a group of people, I felt that. I saw people there yesterday that I didn't even think I would see there. I thought they were from a different persuasion politically than me. And they might be, but they were there. They were there yesterday, and it relieved some of that fear that I had in my life. Little moments, little moments can change the way that we look at things, can change the way that our hearts feel, can steady our souls that are not so jittery. I don't know what's happened, but I've started, maybe you do this, I've started waking up about 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't go back to sleep. I don't want to watch TV because I don't want to hear it. I love little cozy murder mysteries, so that's what I've started reading. About the woman in the British castle that got pushed down the steps and she died. And it's our job to figure out who did it. A little cozy murder mystery. You know, there are little moments in my life that changed me. Meeting Rick changed my life. Changed it totally. From being this person who was unsure of who they were in the world to the person today that I'm pretty confident about that part of my life. I'm not a bar person, never have been, don't drink. Not because I think there's anything wrong with it, I just don't like it. But that's where I met Rick on a Monday or Tuesday afternoon in a little bar in Atlanta. Me, Rick, a drunk man, and a bartender. Watching the Atlanta Braves. I didn't even know what to order. So he came around to me and he said, "What do you have? What do you have?" He pulled up his pants. And I said, "I think I'll have a Scotch on the rocks." I probably had heard that in a movie. He brought it to me. Rick was two seats from me. I sat there and I twizzled and I tied that little thing and I stirred and I did everything that I could to not drink it. And I heard this voice say, "Let's chat. I'm not going to hurt you." So we chatted. And I thought, I got to get out of here. The nerves are starting to take, I got to get out of here. And he said, "Why don't we meet for lunch tomorrow at 11:30 in front of the bookstore?" And I said, "Fine, I'll meet you at 11:30. Did I believe that Rick was going to be there? No, I didn't believe. You know where he was the next morning at 11:30? Right there in front of the bookstore. And the next time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time. That was one of those little moments that changed my mind, changed my life. My favorite movie in the world is Hairspray. Have you ever seen it? Not as much the original, even though I loved it. I know all the songs. I know them well. We went to the movie once on a remake of Hairspray. There was a little girl sitting in the front row of us, maybe 8, curly hair with her dad. And she knew every song. And before I knew it, she was up just dancing and twirling and having the most wonderful time. And she came back to her dad and said, "That's me. That's me. And she twirled her way across the theater. Nobody was watching the movie. That's me. That's me. Short, a little overweight, probably dealt with insecurity issues. That was one of those little moments that changed my life. That's me. It made a difference. She doesn't know it. Her daddy doesn't know it. Rick knows the story. It changed my life because I finally could stand up and say, that's me. That's me. Be pleased with who you are, Philip. That's you. I was blessed enough to be a chaplain, if you can be blessed, during the AIDS epidemic. Young men who were dying really for no reason because our president then, Mr. Ronald Reagan, did nothing, didn't even utter the words. No money was spent. And if it hadn't been for people in this world who were part of a group called ACT UP, have you ever read about ACT UP? If you haven't, you need to read about it. I guess things still wouldn't be done. It changed my mind. St. Mark United Methodist Church, we were doing between 10 and 15 funerals a month. A lot of these young men died alone at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. Until a woman that I met named Ms. Mary Wolper came to me and said, pointed her finger, said, you need to do something about this. And I thought, what can I do? I've said all I can say. I've done all I can do. And I said, why don't you and I sit down and talk about it? And from there, it evolved to where she grew a group of about 15 older ladies, 70 and older, and started a care group that I would get a call from the nurse at Grady Hospital, and she would say, I have a young man by the name of Bob or Tom or John. They're alone. And I would call Miss Mary Wilper. One of those women, fellas, one of those women would carry her little bag, go to Grady Hospital, and sit by the bedside of this young man where his parents wouldn't even do it. We made agreements with the funeral homes, especially one, Spring Hill in Atlanta, that the church would be responsible for their funerals. Their families wouldn't even show up. Now, you don't think that that wasn't a little moment that changed then a young man's life? In knowing what we were to do and where we were to do it and what we were to do? It changed my life drastically. You remember a TV program called The Wonderful Life of Mrs. Maisel? You remember that? Do you remember Alex Bornstein, her friend? I think it was her lawyer friend or her something. She used to be on Mad TV. Let me tell you her story. Something that changed my life. When she accepted her Emmy, Alex did, Ms. Bornstein, she said the following words to the Academy and to the world. My grandmother was standing in line ready to be shot at one of the concentration camps in Germany. And there was a young soldier that stood near her. And she had the courage to say, what if I step out of line? And he said, you'll be shot immediately. I can't do it, but I assure you somebody will shoot you. You know what she did? She stepped out of line, only to become Alex Bornstein's grandmother. Wow. Can that not change your mind? How many times have you been called to step out of line? How many times have you, instead of stepping out of line, moved back into the line? It gave me the power to say, I'm going to step out of line, and whatever happens may happen. I may be fearful. Can you imagine her as she stepped out of line, ready to be shot? I'm going to keep stepping out of line. As long as my feet will move, I will move out of line. Now it's your turn. What's been one of those little moments in some of your lives? I see you shaking your head. Now don't be afraid to stand up. You know what I just told you? Sometimes you got to step out of line. Tell me a moment. Share a moment. A little moment that might have changed your mind and your life. I'm listening. Good. Thank you. Step out of line. Yeah.
Green light. Hello. Yes. My daughter lives in Nashville, Tennessee, outside of Nashville. She is a card-carrying Southern Baptist and has been pretty much panic-stricken about the fact that I am willing to stand up against and write and continue to speak what I feel is my truth, our truth, that all of this that is happening is just wrong, and that we have the ability to muster our courage to let go of, as much as possible, the fear, because it's the fear that is used, they are using it as an attempt to control. It's a deliberate attempt to control. And so when I told my daughter back at the first one, if I get thrown in jail, don't worry about it. And I told her yesterday that I was going to the march, to the protest, which was wonderful. And I had to call her when I got home and say, I'm back, I'm safe. I stepped out of line. Here it's not stepping out of line. Here it's joining the line. But for my daughter, for my sister, who is also afraid, this was definitely stepping out of line. And I said, yes.
Anybody else? Yes, sir. Can you share that with him, the mic with him?
I'm not comfortable, but I'll say what I gotta say. It's probably about 40 years ago. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina, and well, I worked at a business that is a huge building with only 5 or 6 employees. It was an industrial manufacturing plant where we make plastic machinery from scratch, from a drawing, and we're big as railroad cars.
Wow.
But anyway, did that, 1,000 wires, it was great, but they were very racist. Whenever the machinist got there, he came from Ohio, and he said, well, the biggest reason I took the job is y'all got less N-word here. That's why I'm here. Wilmington's like 98% white or something. And so I'm there, and over the intercom, the manager up in this booth would do the word of the day, A through Z, racist things that they would come up with. One of them was called renege. That's whenever at the car wash they change shifts, and that was the R. There was the 3 tribes, Motisa, meaning, do you want more tea? Mombak, that means garbage truck. So I said to those guys, you got to do this, don't do it around me.
Amen.
Tell me what time I can take my break. I'm going to go outside. Y'all have your little fun. I will not be a part of this crap. And they hated me for the next 5 years. But that's
But you stepped out of line.
Here, hello.
Hello. God.
I have a uplifting story that Philip, when he was young, we were just in Bristol, Virginia. That's where he grew up. And when he was a child, he would go to every church he could walk to every different Sunday. And you know what he did? He collected fruit baskets. That's not my story. We were up there walking down the street, and there was this little studio-looking place here. And he said, you know what? When I was 8 years old, I used to sing there on the Bubba Bonnie Lou religious
Buster and Bonnie Lou.
He knows them. He was known as Little Phil Thomason in Bristol, Tennessee, and he sang on the radio. Sorry. Yeah. Please take this away from me.
Oh.
Chattanooga, Tennessee, 1973. Our older son, Scott, went to first grade. He came home one day and said, we talked about Jesus in school today. Excuse me. And is this a public school? Hickson Elementary. And so I went to the principal and I said, do you know it's against the law to talk about religion in public schools? Well, yes, but the Methodist women want every child to hear about Jesus, and they get a chance to hear about Jesus in our public schools. Then if they don't accept him as their personal savior, well, that's their problem. So I went to the principal and I said, this is against the law. We can't have this. And he said, well, if you'll sign a release, I'll let your child out of this half hour a week in every public school classroom. And so I did, and then a week or so later, I said, well, what'd you do today? Well, I had to sit in the hall. I said, that's for bad kids. Well, I know, but they were having the Bible study. So I went back to the principal and I said, you are humiliating my son just because I'm obeying the law. Well, the next year, he sent a note home to parents and said, if you want your child in the class, you have to give permission for him to be in it. So then a lot of kids were in the hall, but we eventually had a group of Unitarians, Christians, Catholics.
Hopefully Methodist.
Hopefully Methodist. I don't know. That's Chattanooga. And Jewish parents. And we brought a lawsuit. And finally, the once a week Bible classes in public school were eliminated in Chattanooga.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you do. Victoria, you're not as big a loud mouth as I am.
Hello? Okay. I'm reminded by Philip of being afraid in the seventh grade
Yeah.
at the Cuban Missile Crisis. My teacher said, "Don't bother to do your homework. We'll all be dead."
Oh, my God.
So I went home and I was terrified. I didn't have a fallout shelter. So I dragged all the mattresses off of the beds and in the center of our house, and I put them up against the walls and dragged all the canned food in there. And I thought, I'm protecting my family when the bomb starts.
Exactly.
It was fearful.
It
I
is
agree
fearful.
with you.
It is fearful.
And now I'm fearful too.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm trying not to be and trying to do what I can do. That's what we all are doing, I think.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
That's it.
One more if you'd like to.
Okay, here you go.
Back here.
I just have a little bit about, being fearful, like you said. I grew up in Canada, most of you probably know. So the history classes that I got were a lot different than the history classes kids got here. And when I was in grade 5, the vice principal was teaching our class for some reason, and she was about 100 years old. I don't know, but she was mean, and she was an awful person. And she started talking about the war in Iraq. This was the first Gulf War. And I thought, there's a war going on? What? All I was ever aware of was World War I and World War II. So I was convinced that this was World War III, or about to start. And it was absolutely terrifying.
Yes, it was.
And I didn't know that war was sort of a constant state of the world. Whether I'm better off knowing that now or not, I'm not sure. But it was a terrifying time as a kid. And like most of you, I'm terrified right now, too. So.
One more. Yes, ma'am. I saw you.
I think we all might have a Cuban Missile Crisis story, but I will not tell you mine right now. Someday, over coffee, I'll tell you mine.
We'll go there.
But I hate to. Things have changed out in the school in this county where I taught in the 80s. So I don't want you to think this is going on now, but back then, for some reason or other, I was in the middle school part of the high school, and it was Halloween, and I have no idea why we wasted time doing this with middle school kids, but the kids could dress up at Halloween and walk across the stage. So we were all in the auditorium, and this was fourth period. One of the children that was walking across the stage was in a absolute official Ku Klux Klan outfit. That meant she had sat in 3 periods when the teachers did nothing about that. Well, I did something about it, but it was just because it was so ingrained in me. It was just like, how could this be? And I think all of you would have done this. And calmly took her out, and we had a discussion in the principal's office, and her mom came, and her mom was furious, and there was nothing we could do with the mom, but we could get her back in class without that on her. And it was just
There are things that there's nothing left to say. It's just there. We're through in just a minute. I had a country mama born in Bristol, Tennessee. Country mama, Appalachian woman. Told me one time that her family would have starved if it hadn't have been for the Salvation Army. But she taught her children right. As life moved on and money came into my mom and dad's pockets, and good jobs happened. We moved to Decatur, Georgia. As my daddy used to refer to it, the land of milk and honey. My mama woke us up one morning. I think I might have told you this, but if I hadn't, it needs to be said again. She said, "Wake up, we're going to walk and march with Dr. King. We're going to cross the bridge in Alabama." And I thought, well, honey, you're $1 late and $1 short because it's only we can't possibly get there. She woke me up, woke my sisters up, had signs made. We lived in a neighborhood that was not really happy about Dr. King. She gave each one of us a sign, and we marched through our neighborhoods. My sign said, "I support Dr. King." And every time that I would stop and want to move back, she would nudge me on. If you support Dr. King, then you keep marching. We did. Nobody bothered us. The next day, we walked to Decatur, Georgia, to downtown to Woolworths. Every Saturday, we would walk to Woolworths. We only had one car. And we went in, and every Saturday, she bought us a hamburger at the counter at Woolworths. Every Saturday. Best hamburger I ever had in my life. She walked up that day. We looked in the window. There sat a black family enjoying their hamburger at the Woolworths lunch counter. Now, my mama didn't cuss much. But I remember turning around and I said, "What do we do?" And she said, "If you're hungry," this is her cussing, "you'll get your ass in there, sit down at the counter, and enjoy the hamburger that you've always enjoyed." She taught me to step out of line, and I'm thankful for her every day for doing it. Judith, going back to you, I've got a feeling that if you had been put in jail yesterday, you got a whole room full of people that would have bailed you out. Or been there with you. People, thank you for the opportunity of sharing with you. Thank you for your openness to share with this group of people. It's not easy to share, especially stories that have affected you in a way that you've experienced a little moment that changed your life. Every one of us have them. Some of us are fearful to share, which is okay. Every one of us have those moments, and they made you who you are today. I'm grateful for you. Closing hymn this morning, I think you'll see here, and I invite you to stand and to sing, as John Wesley would say, with great gusto as we join together. Won't you stand and sing with me, please?
Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love loves to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. Love offers life in spite of foes who threaten and condemn. Embracing enemies will close not a second mile with them. Love comes to heal the broken heart, to ease the troubled mind. Without a word, love bids us start to ask and seek and find. Love knocks
and enters at the sound of welcome from within. Love sings and dances all around and feels for life begin. You all are my friends. I hope you know that. You're loved. You're blessed. You're a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful group of people who go into this world and step aside. Now go, dear friends, and keep moving, keep changing. And maybe soon we won't be afraid anymore. Go in peace. Amen.